Well, I'm very honored to present you our next speaker. But before I do it, I've mentioned the word global. We're trying at Webit not to have only the business point of view or the investor's point of view or the media point of view, but we also want to hear the academic point of view. So let me tell you who is our next speaker.
Over the years, he has worked in startups and major technology companies in the Silicon Valley and around the world. Being extremely attractive to the audience, he teaches a real-time role-play course on how to turn around a failing company. Please welcome Affiliate Professor of Entrepreneurship at INSEAD, Professor Paul KEWENE-HITE.
Paul,
thank you.
honor and pleasure having you here at Webit stage.
Thank you very much.
I will be asking you many questions after your presentation.
Okay.
But I would love to hear firsthand from you. I know you've taught a lot of entrepreneurs. INSEAD is one of the symbols of the education that it comes with the grant for success. Being taught well, being this, creating the knowledge that is needed for the current reality. And obviously the current reality is changing so fast.
Right.
So I would love to hear more from you after your presentations. The floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This? Sorry. What is it? The green button. Technology. So, it's great to be here. One of the most enduring, where's my slides? One of the most enduring lessons from my years at Harvard University as a student is that a question is significantly more valuable than an answer. The issue about questions is that we tend to assume that the question, as expressed, reflects the reality that we need it to. Where what we need to do is take the question and see it from all sides of it. Right now in the business world, we're talking a lot about a 360. But it's not just looking at the question, it's looking from the question out at all the possibilities from it. But even then, that's not fully accurate because we need to look all around the question and size the question, rephrase the question. Now, a good question can give birth to great answers, but usually in the form of more questions. So I encourage you to embrace questions as a vehicle for exploring the answers. Because if we hold too fast to the initial question and assume that that question is correct, we might come up with an answer that has nothing to do with what we actually need to discover or decide. So, asking questions, we should ask questions. Green. The button isn't working. Asking questions like a child. Now, my children are fantastic. I hope that everybody feels the same way about their children that I feel about mine. My children ask fantastic questions. And my 17-year-old son, who is in the process of applying to university now, his whole life has asked some of the most powerful questions I've ever encountered. Now, when he was 5 years old, he never asked why. Most children ask why everything. Why does the light work that way? Why does the door work that way? Why does the TV work that way? My son never asked why. He always asked, how does it work? Now, what's interesting about how does it work is it reframes the question so that you can explore it instead of simply answer it. And so when he asks, how does it work? It was always about economic systems and about languages and countries. And one day he was in the bathtub and he asked me to come in. I was in the other room and he asked me to come in. And his hands were dipping in the water and back out and dipping in the water and back out. And I said, what is it? And he said, how is it that two gases combine to form a liquid? If I were to take a tank of hydrogen and a tank of oxygen with a hose from each that went into a balloon, would the balloon fill up with water or with two gases, hydrogen and oxygen, but not water? Now, to me, when he asked me this question, 5 years old, my first thought was, how on earth does a 5-year-old know about hydrogen and oxygen? And what would inspire somebody to think about the question of combining hydrogen and oxygen to form water? But I just looked at it and I said, I don't know. I don't actually know why or how. If too much heat is probably involved. Too much heat makes an explosion. Not enough heat probably just makes warm gas. But something that we should explore. And he said, just looking at me, okay, cool. And he went back to working on his toys in the bathtub. And then I went and started researching water. Now, I knew everything that normal people know about water. I knew that there was a version of water that you drink or you shower with, you cook with. If you put too much heat, it evaporates. If you apply cold to the water, it makes ice. I knew normal human being things about water. But then I started investigating water, and I realized the more I looked at water, the more analogous it was to things that I do understand. Money and business and relationships and technology. These are things that I've lived built my career on. And all the states of water, from liquid to solids to vapor, can be analogous with all these things in my business life too. And so as I started exploring the questions about water, the things that combine, I realized that there was learning in it for me, because I was looking around the question and up and under the question. So how is it that things combined? So as to water, business, money, technology all have the same 3 states as water. For example, money has solid form. You can invest in financial instruments, stocks, bonds, go to the bank, put money in. You can invest in companies and technologies. And when you invest in these things, it expands if you invest correctly. You put it in, and like ice or water, when it's frozen, it expands. So value is built, it's created, it's expansive. If you invest it incorrectly, it doesn't. It either liquefies or vaporizes, and we'll talk about that in a second. So thinking about money as a solid form is very interesting, because it helps you appreciate when money does not move or cannot be moved without liquefying or vaporizing it. Now, technology goes through a similar thing. Now, one of the things that you think about is that you invest in technology, and technology becomes greater, it becomes expansive because we invested correctly in technology. There's another kind of solid for technology I want to impress on you, and that is the kind of technology that you don't even know exists. There are technologies in the world that would change the world if only they were transacted, if only they were available, if they could be purchased, if they could be transacted, installed, serviced, maintained, but they're not. And it could be that they're not available, that they're in a dark, solid ice form somewhere. Could be because of bad partners, bad lawyers, lawsuits, bad intellectual property protection, all those sorts of things. But it could also be, and this is the message I want to convey to you, that it could be that someone is working on it in your company and you don't even know it. It's on someone's hard drive, it's on someone's workbench, it's somewhere in your company, in the basement, on the 3rd floor. Someone's working on it and you don't know. You're looking, but you can't see it. Because you have an agenda when you look, right? You're biased when you look, instead of looking with open, clear thinking. Now, liquid forms for money and technology is the simple one. Liquid forms of money is when it transacts, it's movable, it's transferable, it can be transferred. That's the easy one. And for technology, it's the same. It's actively sold, it's transferred, it's installed, it's being supported, etc. That's the easy one to understand. Now, the vapor form of money is when you mismanage the money, or when you have no choice but to deploy a liquid out of your solid. So you have stocks, bonds, investments in companies, and you need that as cash so you can transact it out of the stock or the bond or the company and then put it somewhere else. And it's the liquefying of the solid that causes fees and penalties, where you're paying taxes, all the different things and ways that money escapes off of the cash that we otherwise think we're going to have. And so you need to time these things and plan those things. Technology has a similar thing where you might be, we're going too soon to the market with the technology. We're putting it in play too soon, or in the wrong market, or with the wrong partners. There are a lot of different ways that we can vaporize technology, wasting it. We might feel like we have to be the first mover. We might think we need to invest more in the solid form to expand it before we deploy it into a market, but we might have the competition pass us because we were too busy expanding it internally as a frozen form before it's transacted, where sometimes we need the calculated risk of deploying it into the market. So why does this matter? When you think about the 3 states of money, as a business leader, you need to appreciate with sensitivity how money is locked into financial instruments, or locked into an investment in a company, or stocks or bonds, or other ways that money is put on ice. And how and when and why you can transact out of that solid form into something that's more liquid. And liquefying hard assets in money can sometimes not be done, but usually is done only with fees and penalties. So if you have sensitivity on it, then you can make good decisions about it. Now, the vapor form is when you need to be careful about minimizing the loss, the risk of loss. Technology has the same 3 states. You have a solid form. Now, hopefully you have greater sensitivity to the fact that we're investing in the technology in theory so that it can become more, so we can become bigger. It's expansive. But if we're not investing correctly, it might be shrinking or vaporizing because we're putting the wrong money in the wrong place or in the wrong technology because we asked bad questions. We're answering the wrong question with this technology. There's a solid form. It's actively transacting. We're installing it. We're in the market. And then there's the vapor state, where you need to be careful about minimizing loss by the correct partners, the correct deployment to the correct industry or marketplace. And a caution here, what is efficient is not always effective. And what's effective is not always efficient. Sometimes you need inefficiencies. Sometimes you have to create vapor in order to transact. And sometimes it's best not to. So understanding that efficiency is not always effective and effective is not always efficient is something that I want to impress on you. So capturing value. As with a boiling pot of water, sometimes you need to keep the lid on it if you're making soup. So you can trap what burns off and it can go back into your soup. You take the lid off too often, too much is going to escape. Or if you just leave the lid off entirely, you come back to an empty pot. Technology is the same. You're applying heat to it with every moment you pay attention to it, with every amount of money that you put into it, with every amount of time you put into it. You need to think carefully about whether or not this is even the right soup to be making. So think, how do we create value and capture it? Think about the technology and the money we're investing in its expansive state as a solid. When are we liquefying and taking it to market? Is it the right market? Is it the right location? The right customers? How do we know? Ask questions, but 360 or 720 the questions. Are we even asking the right questions about how to take this investment to market so that we can capture the value for ourselves? Thank you very much for your time.
We are a bit over over time.
Yeah.
But I cannot stand asking you the question that I ask everybody. You know, a professor never shares a screw up, right? It's not gonna be...
No, actually, I spend most of my time talking about the things that didn't work.
So, what is the biggest in your life?
In business?
Please.
No, so I'd say the golden rule for business for me is partners, partners, partners. And so getting into business with the wrong partners. I've, 2 examples, once started a company with the wrong founder. I believed in the CV ahead of the person. And the CV was right, the person was not. And so what was a fantastic product and a fantastic market opportunity with great investment blew up because of the wrong co-founder. And I also have, in another company, taken on the wrong investor, where for political reasons, I agreed to take on the investor when I knew that I felt in my gut that there was the wrong person, and it blew up the company. Fantastic product, fantastic market opportunity, but the wrong investor.
So at the end of the day, it's all about the people.
People. The people stuff is the hard part of business. Right. The idea, the product, the go-to-market strategy, financial modeling is the easy compared to the people. It's all about the people.
Paul, thank you very much for joining.
All right.
Hope you're going to stick around with us.
Yep, I will.
Thank you. Thank you.